Hi everyone, today let's talk about Meta and their earnings. Then we'll take a look at Amazon earnings. Then we'll take a look at Apple earnings. If you like trading stocks and options and making money, definitely like and subscribe. I make videos like this every single day that the markets are open as well as Sundays, so make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Welcome to the Portfolio Bulletin. Let's get started. So Meta blew away expectations and they announced their first ever dividend payment. And on the back of all of that, the stock jumped 15%. Massive growth here for Meta. Massive beat on earnings. $5.33 expected, $4.96 delivered. Revenues also beat. Daily active users beat. They pretty much beat across the board here. Everything continuing to look very good for Meta. And the bigger news is that they've continued to cut their costs. They mention it here. Expenses have decreased 8% year over year, so that's a pretty substantial decrease. They're continuing to drop their costs and beat on the top and bottom lines. You can see it here. Quarterly revenue growth this quarter was 24.7%, which was also a very strong quarter the previous quarter. This is where they were really hitting those lows, decreasing revenues, decreasing earnings. They were dumping a bunch of money into the metaverse, and now we are starting to see another growth cycle here for Meta. And of course, they do have the AI story and the metaverse that is still trying to get off the ground. They are using AI in terms of recommending content to users, so they're actually delivering some value on their AI technology, which is a little bit different than most of their competitors currently. So again, everything here for Meta looks good on the earnings. Moving over to Amazon just for a moment, they also jumped a lot, 14% for revenues jump, and then based on that, they were up about 7.5%. So Amazon going much higher, beat on earnings, beat on revenue, met on web services, which is kind of their growth sector, really driving most of their growth currently. And that was right at expectations, and then advertising did do a little bit better than Google. That's where Google struggled. They showed weaker demand for their advertising business, which is a much bigger part of their business. Amazon obviously has a bunch of other things with their retail brand as well as web services. Google has web services as well, but ads are a bigger piece, and Amazon ads seem to be doing better, at least this quarter. And then you can see that cloud growth, 13%. Everything, again, looks pretty good for Amazon, and based on that, we're seeing a massive jump in the stock. Moving over to Apple, much less rosy on the Apple front. They were down after hours. They did report some revenue growth, which is the first time in a while here for Apple, but you can see China sales declined 13%, and you can see the stock is down 3% after hours, so not great. Concerned face, as are all of the investors at this point. You can see earnings and revenue both beat, so everything's good there, but it fell after hours with the weak guidance around the iPhone, as well as the China issues we already mentioned. And you can see here, just about everything did well. iPad missed a little bit. iPhone revenue did beat. Margins continue to be very strong. Service revenue did miss by a little bit, not great there. But like I said, I think the big story is that iPhone sales are potentially going to be weak this year. And then the weakness in the Chinese market. We have the Chinese government kind of focused on Apple right now, which is not good either. Overall, still doing well as a company. But the question is, can they grow? You can see that 2.1% growth on quarterly sales where they had 4 quarters of weakness. And the question is, does this trend kind of continue here? We've been improving towards positive growth, got positive growth for 1 quarter. And if this continues to improve over the rest of the year, then sure, we could absolutely see Apple going higher. But right now, that is not the expectation, especially with weakness in the iPhone market. And obviously, as the second largest company in the world, if it starts to see a little bit of weakness, that could drag down major markets. And then they do finally mention here the lawsuit with Masimo, the company that makes pulse oximeters. They did bring a lawsuit against the Apple Watches and the technology that they were using in there. Not a huge impact to the company, but it is worth noting. Moving over to the charts, starting off with Meta, you can see it's been a colossal run. We've been watching this chart for a while, down from around $90 up to $390, so massive run. It's crazy that it ever got that cheap. They were spending a ton of money on the metaverse, and we weren't sure if that was going to pan out. And really, they've shifted back into the year of efficiency, which is currently this year. At least it's being dubbed so. And they've leaned into that. They've become more efficient, and you can see the stock has been rallying through the roof. We were right at all-time highs 2 weeks ago. We kind of hovered here this week, and now you can see the massive pop. It's up to 454, so it's up even more after hours from my previous video. You can see it here on the hourly chart. Absolutely massive pop, continuing to hold, seeing demand after hours. See what happens to it tomorrow. Obviously, there's no levels or anything. There's just straight up price discovery here on Meta. In terms of support, obviously way down around 406. That's the most recent peak, so we're up $50 from that. Nothing really worth mentioning. See if we can find any trends. So zooming out to the monthly chart, you can see this kind of double bottom that you had early in their existence, 2012, 2013, and then marked a bottom here in 2020 on the COVID lows. And then if you see right where we are right now, you can see we're right at that level. So let's look at it closer up. A trend right in that vicinity. I would argue that it has about $15 more until you hit that trend. So you're trying to find some longer term levels to work off of, but realistically, this is price discovery. And then moving over to Amazon, you can see we are really rallying up into these kind of mid ranges from the consolidation going back to 2021. Right in the middle of that in terms of where we rallied up to the peak and then pulled back to the mid range, tested it one more time and then broke back down, and that was the bigger breakdown. But we're there now. You can see we're in this channel. We were riding it for a while, tried to rally up, establish some higher trends, pushed back into that lower channel and then held. And now we're breaking back into the mid-range of that channel. In terms of levels, currently watching 174.23 and 167.06. You can look at it on the hourly chart. And you can see that here, broke through these couple of levels and some trends, touched that 174.23 level and pulled back right from it. So you're in that range, 167.06 up to 174. Got that trend up here at 176.50. So a little bit more structure to work with on Amazon. If you get a break here, could be looking for 108.41, potentially 188.61. That seems a little bit aggressive, but it's a very strong earnings, a good result for Amazon, and it's obviously up a lot already. And these catalysts can carry even more gains. It is interesting that it did touch that level and then pull back all the way to 167 and bounce from that level and then rally. It's finding a little bit of strength after hours after the pullback. So a little bit of buying coming in. Definitely something to watch in the pre-market tomorrow. Not showing as much strength as Meta. Moving over to Apple, this has been an interesting chart. So you had a double top. I was kind of expecting this to move lower here. We ended up holding at that 182.37 level right here. Bounced up, established another lower high, and now we're breaking down. It was already a bearish week. We've been watching it as bearish. You can see bearish momentum, RSI weak. Going into the earning announcement, you can see it here on the daily chart. I did talk about it a little bit already on the previous video, but you can see we had been rolling over. It already looked weak. Had a little bit of a bounce today, but the momentum stayed bearish. And then going into the earnings, we touched that level and then clearly rejected. Let's look at it on the hourly chart. In my earlier video, it was holding up a little bit better, down just a little bit on the candle. And then as they gave their guidance, it continued to fall, took out that 182.37 level, touched the trend. Now we'll see what happens from there. In terms of references, you can see we're right at these previous lows. If this trend breaks and then that 178.57 level breaks, that's going to be quite bearish here for Apple. So right now, definitely a bearish structure. Remember, there is still the 200 SMA sitting down here on the daily chart at 182.37. We're already well below that in the after hours, which would put us below all of the EMAs and SMAs on the daily chart. Again, that's quite bearish. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish. Apple looking quite weak going into tomorrow's session. Moving over to the Tasty charts in terms of trades, really there's nothing you can do here for Meta. It's way out of the charts. News events like this can absolutely push you way out of the ATR bands. There's nothing really to work with here. You can see massive volume, bullish momentum. Just have to see how it opens up tomorrow. Probably looking for short trades, quick little day trades to try to scalp some profits in there. But nothing you can really do with such large moves. Moving over to Amazon, it does seem a little bit less secure in terms of maintaining its gains. It's all the way up at 170, which does overthrow that band pretty heavily. Let's look at it on the weekly, see if we can find a band worth working with. Upper ATR band sitting around 166.72. Might see a little bit of a pullback to that level. Could be interesting. That does give you a pretty good indicator here as well. You can see the top here going back to March of 21. Right in that same range. Could be interesting in that zone for Amazon, watching that one. In terms of options, it'll be interesting to see how these settle for the Friday options. Let's go out to a week from now. You can see you're getting about $4.50 to $5 on these options. So that's pretty good. Couple of percentage points. Amazon's pretty volatile. We'll see how it settles out tomorrow in terms of volatility left in the stock. But if we see a pullback down to the 165 range, like I mentioned on the levels, 167, 165 in that range, and you could get a couple of dollars for a week from now option, might not be a bad opportunity on a stock that still looks pretty bullish to me. And then moving over to Apple, again, here on the weekly chart, you can see that 55 EMA sitting down around the 177, 176 area. Does seem like it could get there. It's already down at 181, so just a couple of points lower before we get there. That is where we bottomed out on this previous dip low. So looking for that as an initial target at least. Let's look at it on the daily chart here just for a moment. That would put you right at the bottom ATR band, so you might see a little bit of a bounce from there. So for me, I'd be looking at selling some calls here in the short term until we get into that price target down around 177. And then once you get there, you might see a little bit of a short-term bounce. Might be worth watching, but it is worth noting that all of these ATR bands are starting to slope lower, and I would guess that they're going to move even lower tomorrow. So we'll start to see a little bit more of a downtrend on the bands, which could actually put your price target even lower as you push in that direction. So 175 to 177, at least for this initial push down, and then we'll see what happens from there. Moving over to the options, a week from now, currently you're getting about $3 for the at the monies. So if you pull back to that 175 area, you can get $3 looking to buy it down around 172. That might be a decent opportunity on Apple, at least in the short term, looking to sell some options until we hit that price target. Again, looking for about $3. That's about 1.5% to 2% on Apple for a week from now. Not a bad little play. Something to watch here for Apple. Let me know down in the comments section what you think of these earnings going forward. Can Meta continue to carry markets? Will Apple end up dragging it down tomorrow? Or if you're looking at any of those trades or trying to get into any of these companies, where are you looking to get in or out? Definitely let me know. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.